Today is the day that many of Kamp Kenan's tortoise fans have been waiting for. That's because in this episode, we are going to spend some time with the species that was most likely the one that inspired Aesop to write his famed fable, The Tortoise and the Hare.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to learn about the Greek tortoise and find out why they are such incredible tortoises and why they make the best pets, so get ready for your ultimate tutorial.
A good portion of my life has been all about action, which still holds true. But now I pour all that time and energy into wildlife conservation, education, and the pursuit of knowledge. This is Kamp Kenan.
Hey, what's going on? Now you can see why these guys are fantastic animals. They love to eat anything green. So these are the Greek tortoises. Now they have a huge range throughout the Mediterranean, and there's many different subspecies. So you have to know what subspecies you're working with. I have the Ibera, and I also have Gracia, which are found in southern Spain and northern Africa. Generally, these animals will live in coastal dunes, they'll live in thorny scrub, they'll live in also semi-desert, depending on the species. Now, those that come from southern Europe are going to be able to tolerate temperatures that are much, much cooler, and they'll also hibernate. So today I'm going to focus mostly on the southern European species, but Greek tortoise can really mean a wide range of animals. But for now, we're going to talk about these little guys right here. And as you can see, they are definitely herbivores, very strict herbivores, and they love any broadleaf weed or greens. In captivity, you're going to want to feed them a high fiber diet, just like a sulcata tortoise. If you've watched some of the other tutorials, they're what I would consider a grassland species, or they're going to eat more grasses, more weeds, flowers, things of that nature, rather than some of the fruits that most tortoises from the mountains or from forests will eat. So anyhow, these guys, their diet, very important. You want to make sure they're getting that high fiber. Where they live, they basically just walk around and graze. They'll live on mountainsides, or hillsides rather, which is another really cool thing. They like to walk around. They're very, very enthusiastic feeders, as you can see. I pulled these guys out where they share a habitat with the rhino iguanas that live here at Kamp Kenan. And the reason being is, if they both like it dry, like your rhino iguanas like drier climates, then it's okay for these guys to live together, and they eat the same foods, which is nice also. So basically, the Greek tortoise is a very small species, maybe getting about 5 pounds, which makes them an excellent candidate for being a pet tortoise. Not hard to give the animal the space they need. If you're going to do something inside, I would recommend building a tortoise table that's about maybe 4 by 8 foot. Sheet of plywood is going to be good for 2 of them. If you build up the walls, you want to make sure the walls are tall enough that the tortoise can't climb up and out and then fall down off of the table. You're going to want a basking area that's at least 100 degrees. Full spectrum UVB lighting is going to be important as well. Down here in Florida, you guys know how I do things. They basically get the natural sunlight, and I allow nature to take its place. And I have this interesting tortoise right here who's driving me a little crazy lately. That's Max. He's getting a little needy in his old age, but I still love him. Anyhow, back to the tortoises. If you're keeping them indoors, remember UVB lighting. You're going to want to change that lighting every 6 months to make sure that the UVB is still being emitted. I recommend the ZooMed UVB bulbs, and they also sell a UVB light meter, so you can tell just when that light is beginning to fail. Because as we know, any basking reptile, tortoise, turtle, lizards, and some snakes to a degree, are going to need that UVB from the sun in order to metabolize the calcium that they're getting from this very interesting weeds that you see here. I don't even know the name of these weeds, so don't ask. It's just weeds. These guys go for it. Like I said, in captivity, you want to feed them dandelion greens, turnip greens, some good old collard greens. I like to feed a little shredded carrot and a little shredded yellow squash for beta carotenes. That's important too. Vitamin A is very important. You can get a vitamin A deficiency that causes the eyes to swell. Hydration is also very important. Even though these are animals from a drier part of the world, the Mediterranean climate is a more dry climate than some of the other places that you may be living. And so even though it's dry, you're going to want to make sure there is access to fresh, clean water. You will get a look at this. There's a little tortoise stool there for Max right now. Max, what are you doing? She's eating, man. Thank you. Beat it. So anyhow, basically you want to keep them hydrated. I like to do soaks for my hatchlings. I get hatchling Greek tortoises. They're a fantastic little baby, really personable, and they warm up to you really, really quick. As a matter of fact, I pulled these guys right out of their enclosure, plopped them on this rock so it'd be just a more attractive place to talk about them, and they just started eating the weeds that were growing off the rock, which is fantastic because I don't really want to weed whack anymore, so I'll just add tortoises, right? So basically these guys like to stay hydrated, and I do that by giving them soaks and also giving them fresh water. They do reproduce. They'll lay multiple clutches a year. You know, male, typical, you're going to want to see a larger tail, a more concave plastron, and the females generally are going to be larger than the males with a flat plastron and a shorter tail. She'll dig a nice little flask-shaped nest, lay about 3 to 5 eggs depending on the size of the female. And here's what's cool about these. Their incubation is much, much less than a sulcata or a leopard tortoise or even a redfoot tortoise, which can go into the months, 3, 4, 5 months on those species. Well, these guys are about 60 days, so in 2 months you have a baby, and I have some eggs cooking right now, which I'm excited about because they should hatch in another month or so. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Babies are going to run you about $150 to $200, depending on who you get them from. I just think they're a fantastic investment because so many people see a sulcata tortoise and they think, oh, it's $100, $80, this is a bargain. But over the course of that animal's life, when a sulcata grows, you're going to wind up spending thousands of dollars on food and habitat to keep that animal healthy. Whereas if you spend maybe $200 right up front on these guys, it's going to cost you much, much less over the lifetime of this animal because, as we know, they don't get huge. So that's very, very important. They are also closely related to the marginated and the Hermann's tortoise. They will also call this species the spur-thigh tortoise, which also confuses some people when you buy the sulcata. They call it a spur-thigh from time to time, and one stays about 5 pounds, the other gets about 100. So you got to know what you're talking about here. The way you tell the difference between the Hermann's tortoise and the good old Greek tortoise is when you look at the back. You look at the back of this animal, you're going to see little spurs on their thighs, like this. You see that little spur right there? He's not happy I picked him up, but it's a little spur, whereas the Hermann's tortoises won't have that. The other thing that the Hermann's tortoises have that the Greeks do not is a keratinous horn on the tip of their tail. The Greek tortoises will not have that. Now, there are some other little differences, but we won't get into them in this video. In fact, if you guys are interested in any of the European tortoises, my advice would be to talk or to look at Garden State Tortoise, Chris Leone. He does a lot of work with Greek tortoises, Hermann's tortoises, and he really is passionate about those species and their subspecies. So he is definitely an authority. Drew Reinhardt out there in Arizona is another definite Greek tortoise guy. But I just love them because they do so well down here in Florida. I don't have to worry about heating them in the winter. Their habitat has a roof over it, so they don't have a lot of rain coming on them. That's one thing I would just look out for. You don't want them to get too cold, too damp. They'll definitely get a respiratory ailment that way. So basically, guys, Greek tortoises, really hardy, easy pet for you to work with. Great beginner tortoise, but I'm not a beginner and I still love them. To me, it's about having animals that I know are going to do well here, that are going to thrive. And if they're reproducing and growing, and there's been hardly any mortality here in my colony at all. I only lost 1 animal in the last 8 years. So that's a good sign. That means you're doing something right if you're getting babies and the mortalities are low. So that's the Greek tortoise. If you want to do some more research, get on out there and Google away. It's been fantastic talking to you as always. I'm Kenan Harkin. You know that. These are Greek tortoises, and I'm out of here.